There was embers everywhere. It was like rain.
At that point, it was just survive.
All the houses across the street have burned.
It was like a scene from hell.
We had no help.
It was hard to see.
I thought I was going to die.
I used to live in this really beautiful neighborhood called Altadena. It's not so beautiful anymore. It's turned into sort of a burnt out shell. It's been about 4 months since the Eaton fire ripped through my entire neighborhood and essentially leveled the entire city. And now we're facing an uncertain future. I created this channel called Homeward in order to document what's happening here in Altadena and to provide people understanding of what we're going through. It's been a real mess, and I hope that we can help some people get back on their feet. But until then, we created a video to show you what it was like the night of the fire. It's one story in thousands of stories. Thanks for watching.
Dangerously high winds are expected this week in Los Angeles and Ventura counties.
We heard that, the winds were going to be high. I was just saying, okay, just another windy day in Altadena.
I remember waking up very early that Tuesday because the winds were just howling.
The winds were such that if you got out of the car, you had to force the door out to get out of the car. They would, almost knock you down.
My wife told me the day before that there were going to be epic winds that were coming and that she was thinking about getting a hotel. And so I said, look, get a hotel. That way, if we need to move, we can.
I didn't think a fire would happen. Hearing about the Palisades fire throughout the day and just never believing that that could happen to us.
I've lived in Altadena for roughly 15 years.
I've been here for 26 years.
I've been here since 2008.
We've been Altadena residents for almost 10 years. It's a creative community.
Serene, is quiet.
Incredible wildlife, incredible mountains.
The people here are some of the nicest people I believe I've ever met in my life.
It's got a heart and soul that most places don't have.
Whatever you need, the community's there.
There are 3 massive deodar trees across the street from our homes, and they do fall down in the windstorms. It happens every windstorm. So it was really a no-brainer for us to leave that night. We didn't expect anything catastrophic to occur other than wind.
I knew there were rolling blackouts going on in Altadena. I packed a bag, I took some important papers and a blow-up mattress and thought we would go down to my office in Pasadena and spend the night just to get away from the power outage. And that's when the beginning of the end started.
There is video online that you can see the power line arcing, and then you can see 10 minutes later the blaze going.
The sparks went off at 6:11, then all of a sudden all hell broke loose.
I turned around and saw Eaton Canyon explode in a huge fireball. It looked like a bomb had been dropped on Eaton Canyon. And everything in my body started to shake. And I started to scream, no, 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 no. And I knew that with the epic winds and that fireball that we were all in so much trouble.
Evacuation orders are underway in Southern California for more than 160,000 people.
I was living on the job site here. I saw fire in the hills. We were sitting down for dinner when my wife read a text out loud that said, Eaton Canyon's on fire. When she said that, I stood up and literally got in my car and drove directly to Altadena.
Then all of a sudden you start seeing fires coming closer and closer.
By 2 hours, 2.5 hours, it was here.
Maybe a quarter mile past the job site,
and the winds are just blowing. Really crazy day today.
I worked until about 6 or 7 p.m. I came home and I stayed back just to sort of take in everything that I was seeing.
We saw the fire right there where the YMCA used to be, and it was just a big glow of orange red. And then we're like, holy moly, this is bad. And then, well, we better get home, just get prepared.
My father lives in a retirement community in Altadena. He called me and he said his room was full of smoke and then he could smell fire and people were worried. And I said, okay, I was gonna go back and try to get him.
We were lucky enough to salvage stuff from inside of our house.
My son ran and grabbed his dog's ashes and the picture of his best friend who had passed away a few years ago.
And we got out.
They're trying to get the cars out of the street and the parking lot.
I essentially saw my dad's community on the news.
Who's live in Altadena right now.
They're trying to get all of these elderly people out here and get them to safety.
He told me that he had been taken out by an ambulance, so he was thankfully rescued by the fire department.
I came back here to the house and just went up on top of the roof and started spraying some more down. Mount Wilson is over here to the left. You can see the light. The house across the street was brand new built, and the contractor over there was taking all his stuff out of there.
I could see the flames and they were coming closer and closer. And at that time, I figured, I'm gonna try to save the house. I've been building it for 18 months. I've got all my stuff here. My neighbors at that point came across the street, Rod and Vance. They both came across and were helping me put out small fires on the property.
The grass was on fire. They had a hose there, so I turned the hose on. The flames were all over that yard. They were starting to attack the house.
I jumped over the fence to that house. The back rear corner had a big window, probably 6 by 6, and it was coming out of there like a jet engine. And I had a hose and it was gonna go. And I knew it was an oh shit moment and said, that's it.
With the winds and watching the embers in the air, no matter how big your hose was or how much water was coming out, you would just see the embers flying in the air. And I mean, some of these embers were like a foot in diameter.
They were swirling all over the place. I mean, they're everything from like little tiny embers to like charcoal briquette-sized embers. It was then that I knew that I had to evacuate. At that point, it was just, survive.
The last half an hour of racing stuff out of the house was scary because the house is on fire. So we were running by 40-foot flames. Embers are landing on everything in the streets. I just kind of took it one step at a time and I just prayed to, be calm and not to run or hurry. So I didn't want to make a mistake.
My friends, they were all texting in our group chat, sending photos and videos of the news. And there was a vivid memory of my friend who texted a screenshot saying, Colin, this house burned. Is that near you? And my house is in the same screenshot.
Our son came down and he said, hey, you got to get out of here. My wife, Judy, she was walking through the house, taking pictures of the inside the rooms. At that point, I knew deep down inside that I was going to come back to nothing.
We laid down to bed around 9 o'clock that night. And after I realized my father was safe, I tried to fall asleep.
I eventually fell asleep around 1 o'clock. I wake back up around 4:30 with my mom and she's like, I'm going. And I'm like, why? No, it's dangerous up there. We can die. And I just remember well, I'm going with you then.
1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It was quite dangerous. There was trees down, there was power lines down, everything was on fire still. That's kind of the first I've ever seen in my career.
Fire alarm was going off in every house. Propane tanks were exploding everywhere.
We get to the house and we look and the house across the street is gone. And then I look again, I go, Mom, our other neighbor's house is gone. And then I look again, I go, Mom, our other neighbor's house is blowing up right now.
All the houses across the street have burned. This is unbelievable.
The hill wasn't on fire anymore, it was all the houses.
Firefighters all over our street. The street is soaked with water. And my mom goes, Colin, get out of the car. We're gonna hose down the house. And that's what we did for the next 4 hours.
Christine, she called us early in the morning and said, your garage is on fire.
It was a night of tossing and turning until about 5 a.m. when Christine called me and essentially yelled through the phone, like, get up here, your house is still standing. And I literally, like a good soldier or whatever you want to say, took my orders and drove up here through ember-filled streets to return to my house.
The thing that was really noticeable was there was embers everywhere. They were everywhere. It was like rain.
The wind would whip up and a sheet of embers would come flying towards us.
And you have trees like these that are going to produce, embers that are going to float in the air for like a mile or two and land in someone's yard and burn a house that, is not even really close to the fire zone. It's scary.
I didn't quite know what to do other than to run into my front yard and grab my hose and start watering down everything in sight. And so that's what I did.
We ran to the backyard, kept hosing off the tops of everything that we could, the trees, the awnings, just praying and hoping that an ember wouldn't light our house on fire.
My garage had 2 fires in it, and the flames were like 6 feet high. I found a pickaxe, and I started hacking away at the flames for about an hour.
It's Lou's house. Oh, no.
The things that burnt were like the spot fires that nobody was there to put out.
The spot fires were constant.
My mom's like, Colin, spot fire here, put it out. Colin, another spot fire here. Run back over there, put it out.
Colin's hosing down the front. The houses across the street are burning.
Dave and Colin, Christine's son, helped me, hack away and spray the water and all this kind of stuff.
It was so smoky, it was hard to see.
The dust, or the smoke, or whatever was in the air was so fine, like talcum powder, that it just got into everything. It was in my eyes and my ears.
I tried really hard along with Christine and Colin and Lou to do our best to put things out.
I'm here. I'm hosing down my house.
We'll be back. You're not going anywhere.
We will be back. We'll be back.
But it was so much fire.
And then, eventually, the sun came up. And we could see the devastation.
When we got back to the house, my wife and I, after we found out it was destroyed, we drove around. I know the area very well, being here so many years, but your landmarks were gone. I literally had to go to the corners to look at the sign to say what street I was on. You couldn't tell where you were.
The next day, that's when I really saw the destruction, and I lost it in the car. I cried for 20 minutes straight, I want to say, and I haven't stopped crying since then.
Block after block after block. Devastated, gone. And then to find out that, over 10,000 structures gone in Altadena the next couple days and still burning 2 days later.
If there are 75 homes on this street, I would say 80% of them are gone, is my guess.
I'm so incredibly fortunate to still have my home. Absolutely devastated for my neighbors that had lost theirs.
Seeing people's houses burned down it's devastating. It's really hard to watch, and it's really hard to think next week, what's going to happen when they come back. How are these people's lives going to be going forward?
I have to adjust to a new normal, and I just think we all just need to be there for each other during this time.
We came that close to losing everything, and we feel very, very lucky that we didn't.
The people that were here with me, I'm going to be bonded to forever. Christine and I are going to be bonded forever. Colin and I are going to be bonded forever.
The big question for my neighbors and I is, where do we go from here?
Okay, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna rebuild or just move? But no, we're here for the long haul.
In this series, I'm going to take you along with my neighbors and I as we rebuild our lives after the Eaton fire.
That's really intense.
The 67 Mustang, that it technically bent in half.
We're going to start testing the ash area for benzene. The grand total for this was $12,690 that I have to pay for. If Edison did start this fire, how do they fix this?
We're gonna rebuild this house. It's gonna be like the Phoenix.
Thanks again for watching today's video on Homeward. We've got a lot more videos in store for you around the rebuild and recovery here in Altadena, and we look forward to sharing them with you. So please hit the subscribe button. We'll see you next time.